Hi, I'm Sandra Porter. I'm going to talk today about InnovATEBIO.org, a model for ATE National Center websites and education databases. A little bit of history. I started out as a director of a biotech program. I did that for 10 years. I went to industry and worked in a bioinformatics company. And then for the last 10 years, I've been president of my own company, Digital World Biology. I started building websites in 1994. I've been doing blogging. I've made an iPad app for structural biology, and I've been on multiple ATE grants. The person who has been responsible for a lot of the work I'm going to talk about is Todd Smith, and he has been working on websites and web-enabled systems for quite a while and 30 years in biotechnology himself. So the site I'm going to be talking about today is InnovATEBIO.org. InnovATEBIO.org right now has 124 college programs in 38 states. Our programs, 77 of our programs have industry advisory boards. Those programs offer at least 37 different degrees and certificates related to biotechnology. These include biotechnology, of course, biomanufacturing, brewing science, medical devices, regulatory affairs, stem cell technology, and many more. Many of the programs have articulation agreements with four-year colleges. Many have partnerships with high schools. You can see actually it's 51 have articulation agreements, 16 have partnerships with high schools, 13 offer some kind of dual credit through the high school. And they have done well getting funding. 77 have received some kind of grant support. Of these, 50 or so have received NSF ATE funding, and another 50 or so, they somewhat overlap, have received funding from other sources, their state or local governments or the Department of Labor. And we know that our biotech programs are beneficial to the economies. We know from the data that our programs have provided that 787 employers have hired students from InnovATEBIO programs. And we know that 18 of those programs either have an incubator where biotech companies can get startup assistance, or there are services that they offer, contract services, contract manufacturing to local companies, saving them money and giving the students relevant work experience. So how do we know all this? We get that information from our community, and I'm going to talk about how we do that and the structures that we set in place to make that happen. So who is our community? As of now, end of June 2021, I already talked about the number of college programs and high school affiliates, but we have over 1,000 members, people who have signed up to join InnovATEBIO. We have 29 projects that we're kind of managing on the website. We have 1,800 some newsletter subscribers. Almost 5,000 people belong to our LinkedIn group. We have almost 1,000 people in our Facebook group, and we have close to 700 people following us on Twitter. But these numbers didn't come about from scratch. In fact, the InnovATEBIO National Center is less than 2 years old. How did we get all those people? Well, they didn't all materialize instantly with InnovATEBIO either. In fact, shortly after InnovATEBIO began, you can see the numbers were still pretty high. We had 108 programs, 773 members. It's certainly grown since InnovATEBIO has been in operations, and definitely grown a lot over the past years. But InnovATEBIO was able to start with an intact biotechnology education community. So I'm going to talk about where that began. So a little bit of history here. In 2009, I was working at Geosvisa, a bioinformatics company, and Elaine Johnson and Bart Gladhill called me and asked me if I could help with a grant that they were submitting and if I could manage their website. I said, oh, no way. I don't know how to do that. I can't ever do that. But I actually had some ideas about it and thought about it and realized maybe I could. But when I started with Biolink again in 2009, I was confronted by this crazy mess of index HTML files and folders and lots of files and all kinds of files and all kinds of PHP code. And I have to admit, I had no idea what to do about it. I was a bit intimidated. Luckily for me, Todd Smith, my partner, had returned from an open source conference and he was all excited about Drupal. And I realized once I understood what you could do with it, that it could be a good solution. What Drupal and other kinds of modern websites offer that they didn't offer in 2009 was that they're using PHP code to manage the display of information. All the information is stored in a database. So you can have all kinds of things on your website, but you don't have to write or create every single page fresh. So fewer files, your database is controlling the display. It's a lot easier to manage, a lot more manageable. I also, at the time, was part of a blogging collective called Science Blogs. At our peak, we had over 80 different bloggers contributing to the site, people like Carl Zimmer and Ed Yong and Rebecca Skloot. You might be familiar with Ed Yong since he just won a Pulitzer Prize. So there were some things I learned from the blogging community that I thought maybe could be useful when it came to Biolink. And especially with this new platform for the website, Drupal. It really gave us some really interesting new abilities. We could capture information a lot easier. It was easier to enter. We could summarize the information and mine it and present it in different ways. The presentation was more flexible. I could upload a photo and I could show that same photo with 3 different sizes on different pages, which I thought was really neat. I didn't have to make a new photo for every single page I wanted it to appear on. So we had a lot of power, both in the kinds of data and ways we could display that data. Plus, where before, everybody who had access to the site had access to everything in the site and all the files. This new platform offered support for multiple users. When I said I worked on Science Blog and it had over 80 different bloggers, everyone had their own account and their own access without stepping on each other or breaking the site. That this could be really nice if we wanted the community to participate. And we have different levels. So you can have an administrative level where somebody's controlling all the user accounts, and then you have user levels where they just have access so they can post articles or blogs or things like that. What this all comes down to that I wanted to change is I really wanted to change the paradigm. I wanted to reverse the flow from a website being a single source of information where 1 or 2 people are controlling it all and pushing it out to the world, to something where we're capturing information from the world and we're getting information from our community. They can be part of it. I wanted them to have a voice. I really wanted to empower the Biolink programs. And these are the college programs that are offering the technical skills and education that serves the biotechnology industry. So I wanted them to be able to come to the site, to log in, to be able to edit their pages, show what they wanted to show on their pages, and we could capture that information in a database. To sum this up, really wanted to support community involvement, and I really wanted to leverage the power of aggregated data. And I believed, and still do, that by doing this, we really have a great way to articulate the value of our community college technical programs beyond the community. So in 2009, I started doing this on our Drupal platform. I built all the pieces of the site and added 8 prototype programs. some programs that I knew pretty well. And you can see here, from their program pages, we had entered in employers of their students. And you can see here we have kind of a handful of employers. And this is one of the early database reports. So 2009, 8 programs, maybe 20 employers. Today, with our 124 programs, we have 787 employers. And we got all of that information from the programs themselves. So as I mentioned before, we have 124 programs. All this data, where they're located, what state they're in, what they teach, all came from them. We actually do have 10 universities in that selection of 124 college programs, so they're not all two-year colleges. And they're offering 39 different biotech-related degrees. And we have 91 high schools as well. The colleges, by the way, are on the left-hand side and the high schools on the right-hand side in the map. So who's our audience? People that come to the site are students, biotechnology instructors, and people who employ biotech students. And they all are connected together through their relationships with the college biotech programs, which we see as the core of our community. And even today, the biotech programs are entering information, and we're capturing that and using that to show the value, articulate the value of our programs to the rest of the world. So here's an example program page. We have several fields on that page. You don't see the fields where people enter the information right now, but this is what the page looks like in the website. We have fields where they enter information about degrees, the kinds of degrees, the levels. We have all the companies and hiring data that they know about. They can describe their program in any way they like. We have information about the colleges that accept their courses as transfer courses. We have links to College Navigator, so you could find out more about the college and how much it costs to go to school there and things like that. We have their K-12 partners, ATE projects, grants they've been on, whether or not they have an advisory board. And all of this data are aggregated and collected, and we present them in reports and the maps that you've already seen. Programs also have a way to add other information. Let's say they want to write a blog about what they're doing. Maybe one of their press information officers wrote a story about students that graduated from the college, or they've made some promotional videos, or they have presentations. All of that information can be entered in different parts of the site, and it's all linked to the programs themselves. So if you go to a program page and scroll down to the bottom of the page, you see all the videos about the program, all the blogs they've written, all the presentations they've given. And if you're a student and you're looking for where you might want to go to school, this is all very useful information to know. One nice thing about Drupal is it allows you to do the proverbial trick of building your airplane as you're flying it. And all those fields that I showed you on that previous page, we've added those over time as the community has shared with us the kind of information they would like us to capture and the kind of information they're proud of and they would like people to know about. So I just want to show you where you can find those database reports in case you're interested in looking at those. If you go to the InnovATEBIO website, innovatebio.org, and you scroll to the bottom of the site, you'll see a link that says database reports, and you get a list of all the reports and a description of each. And you can follow the links to see what the reports contain. I'm going to show you a little bit some of the example reports. I have one on the left here with program degrees and certificates. You can see 91 programs offer biotechnology, 20 biomanufacturing. Continuing down, looking at funding and CSOs, which is an acronym for contract service organizations, you can see 80 have grant support. So 65% have had some kind of grant support. You can see the award type. whether or not they have an incubator. And we have a map that shows where the incubators are located around the country. We also have employers. It's gone a long way from the 20 or so we had in 2009. So how did we get to InnovATEBIO from Biolink? Biolink ended in 2018. InnovATEBIO began in October 2019. Well, we wrote a grant called A Bridge to Biolink's Future that allowed Todd and I to maintain the Biolink website and to transition it to InnovATEBIO when InnovATEBIO began. We didn't know who the next national center would be, but we knew that the education database, we felt that the education database was a valuable resource, and we wanted to see that preserved. We were able to do this because of Drupal. We were able to take the underlying data structure and reskin the site, copy it, make local installations, so that we were able to test things and make it look different without changing the underlying data or damaging any of the databases. So we think this can be a good model for ATE center websites. There's no reason that a center has to be completely brand new. If there's a community around it, we feel that that's something that's valuable and should be preserved. But what do centers need to do? They need to manage events and registrations. We do that. Coordinate ATE projects, recruit members. Centers need to disseminate publications. They need to promote the programs that are part of their community and share news about them and about the center. And they need to, if they have curriculum, they may need to provide it. But we think the key thing that centers can do is to have some kind of education database, because we feel the database is really important because it allows you to get a real-time snapshot of the state of your community. So I want to thank the InnovATEBIO leadership team. There are a lot of people here who've been helpful in the project, and especially thank my partner, Todd Smith, and our PI, Dr. Linnea Fletcher. I have links on this page to our website, innovatebio.org, a related website, biotechcareers.org, where we use some of the data and link back and forth. We also have a presentation on biotechcareers.org at HI TEC this year, so you might like to check that out. And Digital World Biology is our company. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and my email and Todd's email are here. Lastly, I'd like to thank the National Science Foundation for funding this work. We have 2 grants here from Biolink that funded it, our Bridge grant, and then of course, InnovATEBIO. Thanks.